everybody that is not speaking all the languages of the conference to download the texts, because we will have here Spanish, French, Portuguese, English, and Italian. No, Italian no. We will not have Italian. So but you have the text translated to Italian in the QR code there. So please download the texts in the language is more useful for you. Eu vou falar em português. As pessoas que não compreendem italiano, francês, inglês, espanhol, por favor, fazer o download dos textos nesse QR Code. A gente traduziu no máximo de línguas possível, não tem todos os textos em todas as línguas, mas as pessoas vão falar em línguas diferentes, em francês, espanhol, inglês e português. Então, por favor, façam o download das línguas que vocês não entenderem. Eu queria também convidar, por favor, o Iñaki.
Lá sai a Verônia. Sai a Verônia.
Não, pode ficar. Porque para assistir o vídeo é melhor ficar lá. Ok, depois eu chamo. Iñaki e Mercedes, vou chamar vocês. Depois. Ok. Yes, I'm out of Teams. It's only you now.
J'entends très bien avec Vernon. Si? Si, si. Ah. Là, j'ai supprimé la caméra, je remets la caméra. Mais je me vois. Ça, je comprends pas, là.
Vamos fazer um teste. Fale, por favor.
Je ne comprends pas. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Manuelina, tu n'entends pas? Rien? Écoute.
Não, está saindo. É porque está saindo no alto-falante, não aqui no...
Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Todo mundo está ouvindo.
Moi, j'entends plus personne, là. Alors là, ça va pas. Je comprends pas. Voilà, si je mets...
Tu as mis ton son ou pas? Voilà. Je parle à papa.
Tout fonctionne bien. My side, everything's all right.
Les sons vont directement aux autres parleurs, c'est pas directement...
Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Donc, tout le monde qui est là écoute mieux que nous qui sommes ici.
Bon, si je comprends... Bon, là.
Mais ça va aller.
Alors, vous... Je ne comprends plus rien.
Nous avons commencé les coffee break un peu en retard.
Là, je ne t'entends pas. Là, je ne peux pas...
C'est un peu drôle de parler ça dans les micros.
Tout fonctionne bien.
Tout fonctionne bien. Et donc, nous avons commencé les coffee break un peu en retard. Maintenant, Dieu essaie de collecter les gens. de faire les gens venir à l'auditorium un moment, ok?
Là j'ai...
La technologie aide, mais il y a des choses bizarres. Manuelina, oui.
C'est le microphone, c'est la caméra, oui. Coucou, autorisé, oui. Alors. Bon.
Hugues, comme tu ne vas pas parler au départ, tu seras la 16e intervention. Donc, on va demander de laisser tout le temps les micros fermés, OK? Comme ça, on n'a pas des interférences. Si nécessaire, tu peux écrire dans le chat. Ah, c'est mon OK.
Alors ça marchait là quand même.
On demanda de pour le moment, actually, came a pandemia. Il y a beaucoup d'interférences, mais quand tu parles, tout le monde sera avec. Mais pour le moment, c'est mieux de laisser le micro fermé.
Alors, il faut que je ferme le micro.
Oui, pour le moment, oui.
Je t'annonce, tu commences. Oui, merci. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Désolée. OK. Maintenant, on attend que les gens soient dans l'auditorium et on va commencer. Oui, si tu veux prendre un café, tout le monde prend un café maintenant. OK. Je vais peut-être... we are waiting, the others arrive from the coffee break. Meanwhile, I will maybe share or leave René and Paul share some anecdote of the time of the first meeting in Quebec. So I translate at least for Portuguese. Enquanto a gente espera as pessoas chegarem do coffee break, eu já pedi para vocês fazerem, baixarem os textos que estão traduzidos no QR Code, porque vão ser falados aqui francês, espanhol, português e inglês nessa mesa, mas os textos estão no QR Code, e nós, talvez, enquanto as pessoas vêm, a gente pode contar um pouco algumas histórias de quando essas reuniões do MINOM eram organizadas por cartas, quando não tinha QR Code, quando não tinha Teams, e eles têm uma experiência, uma longa experiência e muito, com muitas histórias curiosas dessa época. Parler quelque chose des anecdotes de temps d'organisation des conférences sans Internet?
Ça dépend de quoi c'est, parce qu'on a des problèmes de...
Non, on attend les gens qui sont dans les coffee break.
Ah, OK.
On les fait ça.
OK. OK.
Qual é o limite do tempo que eu tenho? Okay. Okay. And which time you need to finish? This is the point. So we will start. I will speak mostly in English. Okay. 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 Sorry for the delay. We were waiting the others, but now we start. I hope you already download all the texts, and we will have a mix of languages here. I will speak mostly in English. René maybe will mix a little bit, and Paul will speak English. And we have some interventions in the videos in other languages. So this round table was designed to take advantage of this fourth anniversary of the international movement for a new museology and present some of the founders and former members, people who were fundamental in the renewal of museology and for us to be here today. I also think it is an opportunity to build bridges and reconnect the origins most spoken in French, called Nouvelle Muséologie, with many recent advances made especially in Portuguese and Spanish, when we took up a defense of social museology. Yes, it's correct. I was not passing the... So you have already pictures from now and from 40 years before. The courage of Professors Gilsi Papalardo and Federica Santagato first brought to Italy a MINOM conference. They understood that Sicily, being a south in the global north, would be a good setting for this movement to rethink museologists, and being a museologist and an urban planner, both of them, gave the conference a strong interdisciplinary character that also marks the MINOM from the beginning. Since June 2022, when Gilsi, Mauri Chagas, Mário Moutinho, and I met in Portugal with Federica online, this conference began to be imagined, work that has intensified more since the beginning of 2023, with the help of students and doctoral students of the University of Catania. 4,000 emails and many hours of work online and face-to-face later, we are here. We have here Paul Renaud, René Rivard, Anna Swartz, who will participate of the roundtable, but maybe I invite you to start there, then you can see the images, and then I ask you to come here again. Thank you very much. Since 2022, I have also contacted the founders to share the preparation for the Catania conference and try to reconstitute a list of founders and invite anyone who would be willing to come and participate. René Rivard was a great partner in this work of discovering the contacts of the founders, and then Anna Swartz joined the work of intervening some people who could not come in person. She is starting a doctoral thesis on the history of MINOM that somehow continues the very important work of Ana Mercedes Stoffel, who is also here, conducted in 2005, who created an online database with MINOM documents. She contributed to the video that Anna prepared, and at the end, she can be here also to answer some questions. René will make, together with Paul Renaud, the presentation of an immense research that they did on the first decades of MINOM. I myself was participating as a student in the Salvador workshop in '99, last century. A remarkable year in this history is '92. In France, the Association Nouvelle Muséologie et Expérimentation Sociale, MINES, published another book, Vagues, the Anthology of the New Museology, Anthologie de la Nouvelle Muséologie, organized in 2 volumes by André de Vallée. Meanwhile, in Brazil, there was the first international meeting of eco-museums, which has reached 5 editions and originated the ABRENC, Brazilian Association of Eco-Museum and Community Museums. I thought to bring images of conferences after the period that is most intensely represented in the research of René and Paul. So it's not chronological because we start by the end, okay? So that you have an idea about continuity. We also had the chance to have here Iñaki Balerdi, say hello. Iñaki Balerdi from Spain, who had an important participation in meetings organized by Mateo Andrés in Molinos, and will give a brief testimony. Another video testimony was prepared by William Sade and Miriam Arroyo and Mario Moutinho, and they also participated in a video prepared by Anna Swartz. Finally, we will have the online participation of Hugues de Varine. So, only to show some images. For the ones that are starting to know this history now, the protagonism of the table is given to these people who preceded us because they present, because the present and the future of MINOM is what we are building here and now, with the participation of each person face-to-face and online. For a matter of time, my role and Anna's is only mediators, but we want to remember the people who are gone in the person of Alfredo Tinoco, Pierre Merin, Mateo Andrés, and Odalice Priosti, who are the seeds for the future. So now we will have a short video recorded only with audio from William Sade after I did a composition with pictures. It's very short.
Bonjour toutes et tous, chers amis, chers amis. J'aurais été très heureux d'être présent avec vous en Italie, de retrouver mes anciens camarades du MINOM, de saluer la mémoire de celles et de ceux qui nous ont quittés, et bien entendu, de faire connaissance avec les plus jeunes qui ont pris le flambeau. J'appartiens à la génération qui a connu mai 68 à Paris et les bouleversements de la société française qui s'en sont traduits, mais également les transformations sociétales dans de nombreux pays du monde. La génération de nos parents qui avaient connu la Seconde Guerre mondiale et qui en avaient énormément souffert, agissait selon des valeurs tout à fait respectables, mais qui ne correspondaient plus aux attentes des nouvelles générations qui avaient soif de paix et d'égalité sociale. Filles et garçons, nous ne voulions plus de cette référence à une société patriarcale héritée de siècles de domination masculine. Nous voulions vivre dans une société utopique et libertaire dont le principal slogan était « Il est interdit d'interdire ». Cette effervescence dans les rues, dans les usines, dans les familles m'a conduit, comme tant d'autres jeunes, non pas de perdre ma vie à la gagner, mais à choisir une vie passionnante au service de la société. C'est ainsi que j'ai choisi de poursuivre des études d'anthropologie et d'histoire de l'art à la Sorbonne, à l'école du Louvre et à l'école des hautes études en sciences sociales. À l'époque, la société française était très cloisonnée, vivant dans une fausse modernité, socialement très hiérarchisée, très clanique. Bref, à l'image d'une société d'Ancien Régime, malgré la Révolution de 1789. Le regard que je porte sur la France actuelle est toujours un peu la même, malgré quelques évolutions positives, parmi lesquelles la lutte des femmes et des mouvements féministes. Le monde des musées français était à l'image de cette société, un peu archaïque et très inégalitaire. Nous autres, jeunes professionnels, jeunes conservateurs, engagés socialement, syndicalement et politiquement, avions conscience de cette situation et nous désirions changer le monde dans une utopie, je dois l'avouer, assez naïve, mais propre à toute jeunesse. Nous nous sommes engagés, retrouvés, toute petite minorité, à nous regrouper en créant en France l'AMNES, Usage Nouvelle Expérimentation Sociale. Très vite, nous avons rencontré des amis et des partenaires en Suisse, en Norvège, en Espagne, au Portugal, au Canada, au Mexique, dans d'autres pays, qui travaillaient dans la même voie, à savoir le patrimoine, la culture au service du plus grand nombre, quels que soient les milieux sociaux et les appartenances ethniques, idéologiques ou religieuses, et nous avons créé le MINOM. C'est avec un très grand bonheur et une très grande espérance que je vous vois reprendre le flambeau de cette association, si généreuse dans un monde troublé en son devenir. Je vous souhaite bon vent dans cette merveilleuse Sicile que j'aime tant, pour l'avoir parcourue étudiant. Je suis de tout cœur avec vous toutes et vous tous. Amitié, William.
William Sade et Alain Nicolas on souhaitait être ici. They wished to be here, but they could not travel. So at least we have these words. And now we have a video edited by Anna with many testimonials of different times of MINOM. The subtitle will be in English.
Il faut commencer par 1983, qui est la journée d'études sur les écomusées qui s'est tenue à Montréal. Parce que c'est là où on a mis les bases pour le projet de création du MINOM, des ateliers, de la Déclaration de Québec. Et ça avait été organisé par le groupe de recherche en patrimoine de l'UQAM. Ça, c'est un groupe qui avait été créé par Pierre Méran, qui était professeur à l'UQAM à ce moment-là. Et le groupe de recherche en patrimoine était spécialisé dans la recherche prospective et l'animation du patrimoine. La journée d'études, c'est la première fois où les intervenants du Québec, là, dans les écomusées, pouvaient se rencontrer. Il y avait des observateurs qui étaient présents, surtout du côté du Québec, comme le ministère des Affaires culturelles, Il y avait des représentants des musées nationaux, des associations de musées là, au Québec, la Société des musées québécois, l'Association des musées canadiens, Parc Canada, et aussi d'autres profs de l'UQAM. Et en fait, autour de la table, il y avait une quinzaine de personnes. Il y a deux invités de marque. En fait, deux personnes ont été invitées, soit Marcel Évrard, mais malheureusement, M. Évrard de l'Écomusée du Creusot n'a pas pu se rendre à Montréal pour la journée d'études. Soit Hugues de Varine, qui est bien connu.
C'était donc en 1983. À l'époque, je dirigeais l'institut que j'ai appelé à l'époque franco-portugais à Lisbonne. Il se trouve que j'avais quand même des relations amicales avec Pierre Méran à Montréal. On n'avait pas d'Internet et d'email à l'époque, donc ça se passait par lettres. Pierre m'appelle, enfin m'écrit pour me dire, donc ça se passait probablement en 82, je pense. Pierre me dit, ça serait bien qu'on regroupe les gens qui sont actifs dans ce qu'on appelait à l'époque la nouvelle muséologie. Alors, Pierre me demande si je peux venir pour une petite réunion.
Les objectifs de la journée, il y avait 3 objectifs. Réfléchir sur les principes et pratiques de l'écomuséologie au Québec, jeter les bases de la Déclaration de Québec et établir les modes d'organisation et de fonctionnement d'un colloque international. Et la journée a été suivie de la visite des écomusées de la Haute-Beauce, l'écomusée l'insulaire dans les îles de Sorel et l'écomusée du Fiermont. Il y a un important document de travail qui avait été soumis aux participants, le projet de déclaration, la première version fait partie aussi du document de travail. La Déclaration de Québec a pour but de réaffirmer et de préciser les principes et pratiques de l'écomuséologie, de les normaliser dans une prise de position commune et que cette déclaration-là sera dévoilée au premier atelier. Suit dans le document ce qui est le projet de colloque international. Alors, l'idée, c'est déjà de réunir une 50aine de personnes un peu partout dans le monde et de rendre hommage à Georges-Henri Rivière.
Donc, c'était cette première petite réunion qui a déclenché la réunion de 84.
É uma conferência que há o antes e há o depois de Quebec 84. Ainda não era o MINOM, mas era o início do caminho para o MINOM. Até lá, o que se chamava de nova museologia resumia-se aos ecomuseus. E no Quebec ficou claro que havia muitas formas de museologia alternativa que não eram apenas os ecomuseus. Havia diferentes tipos de museus, diferentes formas de abordar estas questões. E o Quebec afirmou que, efetivamente, a museologia, o que chamava nova museologia, era mais ampla do que a ecomuseologia. Isso me parece que foi uma mudança muito importante.
C'était un atelier itinérant qui a débuté à Montréal.
3 lieux, Montréal, Haute-Beauce et Québec. Déjà, en imaginant un colloque itinérant à Québec, on souhaite que les ateliers qui suivent soient de même nature. C'est organisé par l'Association des écomusées du Québec, l'AMNES, qui est l'Association Muséologie Nouvelle et Expérimentation Sociale de France, qui va d'ailleurs amener un grand nombre de participants. l'Association de l'écomusée expérimentale de Wallonie-Bruxelles de Belgique. Il y a 50 participants en tout, un grand nombre de Québécois, mais aussi des représentants des États-Unis, du Mexique, de la France, de l'Espagne, du Portugal, de la Belgique, de la Norvège, de la Suède et de l'Allemagne. Il y a un moment fort du premier atelier, c'est la soirée inaugurale qui a lieu à Montréal, sur la rue Sherbrooke, pas très loin du musée des Beaux-Arts de Montréal. C'est financé par la Fondation McDonald-Stewart et en partenariat avec ICOM Canada, je crois. Et c'est surtout lors de cette soirée-là, le lancement du livre de René Rivard que le musée s'ouvre. Et le 8 octobre, c'est une journée, c'est ce qu'on a appelé la partie thématique théorique de l'atelier, où il y a des rencontres autour des définitions de nouvelle muséologie, technique et philosophie de la nouvelle muséologie, et on prépare quand même le terrain pour la Déclaration de Québec. Le lendemain, l'atelier prend la route pour la Haute-Beauce, qui est quand même à peu près 3-4 heures de Montréal.
Tout le monde dans le même autocar. Et en Haute-Beauce, on a été 2 jours. Donc, les gens ont dormi chez l'habitant, ce qui a fait que de créer des liens entre la population et les membres de l'éventuel MINOM.
Permitiu às pessoas de se conhecerem. Elas estavam separadas.
Les uns et les autres, on a découvert qu'on était plusieurs in the middle of nowhere, comme avait dit John Kennard. Hein?
Fue la primera vez que escuché a otros hablar de lo mismo, a otros con los que me pude identificar. Cada quien en su país, desde su cultura, su conocimiento, su experiencia, su formación académica, que probablemente tenían muchísimo más que yo. Pero todos estábamos haciendo lo mismo. Todos habíamos desarrollado metodologías para precisamente buscar la transformación del museo.
E foi Lisboa por várias razões.
Portugal estava naquele momento, graças à Revolução do 25 de Abril, estava verdadeiramente engajada em tudo quanto era a modificação e a modernização dos museus. E o de Varine estava cá.
O facto de Varine estava em Lisboa. Estava no liceu, no Instituto Franco-Português e, portanto, viabilizou o espaço e o conselho, sobretudo o conselho do de Varine.
À l'époque, 84-85, j'ai été plus actif dans le petit groupe qui a finalement donné la naissance au MINOM Portugal. On se réunissait, les premières réunions qu'on a eues avec Nabaïch, c'était Nabaïch qui nous invitait. On était 5 ou 6, on se réunissait dans un café, Praça Príncipe Real, à Lisbonne, le soir après le travail. On se réunissait autour d'un café et on discutait. On faisait la révolution dans les musées, c'était assez drôle.
E então o encontro acabou por se fazer no Instituto Franco-Português.
À l'époque, je pensais que je serais directeur de l'Institut. Mais dans l'intervalle, fin 84, j'ai démissionné parce que mon gouvernement, mon ministère français n'a pas accepté le projet qui avait été fait avec l'ambassadeur et moi pour l'Institut. Et quand la réunion s'est tenue à l'Institut en 85, moi j'étais parti.
Là, il y a une 60aine de participants, et pays représentés, l'Argentine, la Belgique, le Brésil, l'Espagne, la France, la Norvège, évidemment le Portugal. Et il y a plusieurs Québécois qui sont participants. Les gens de la Haute-Beauce, notamment, il y a une délégation Et c'est cet atelier-là qui a permis de concrétiser la création du MINOM. Il y a eu, en fait, c'est une charte québécoise avec des lettres patentes québécoises. Et c'est de longues discussions qui ont été menées. En fait, c'est René qui dirigeait ces discussions-là, René Rivard, et moi à titre de secrétaire.
Depois acabou por haver eleições, acabou por se formalizar a existência de um movimento para a nova museologia. E era apenas um movimento, uma associação, se quiser, mas que nunca verdadeiramente funcionou como associação, funcionou sempre como movimento.
A partir daí, houve imensos ateliês que eu me lembro importantes. Todos eles iniciaram um processo em que a liderança do Pierre Merin, que era uma pessoa com uma grande personalidade, foi muito útil para consolidar, mas também provocou que aqueles que de alguma forma tinham outras ideias tão boas ou como eles, começassem a ter algumas dissensões em maneira de explicar-se, de maneira de compreender a forma de musealizar aquela ideia do comportamento social e da participação social. Esse momento, que durou glorioso até praticamente em 1990, foi aquele que definiu os passos todos do MINOM.
Bon bien, je sais que j'ai assisté à une réunion qui, moi, m'a beaucoup intéressé, m'a passionné en Norvège. J'ai beaucoup aimé cet endroit et j'ai été passionné à cause de l'endroit, à cause de ce qu'on a vu là.
C'est dans le cadre du musée Totten. Et le musée Totten, c'est un musée régional de culture paysanne qui est de plein air, qui a été créé dans les années 20. Et c'est la première fois où il y a une rencontre avec les communautés nordiques. L'atelier est organisé en collaboration avec le groupe des écomusées norvégiens et le comité national norvégien de l'ICOM. Et l'objectif de l'atelier, c'est apporter une contribution à la réflexion en cours sur les intentions et pratiques de la nouvelle muséologie, avec deux angles, l'évolution du musée de plein air et le rôle que jouent les musées par rapport aux minorités ethniques dans les pays arctiques. La question des minorités culturelles, c'est la pierre de touche là, du rôle social du musée et de son développement futur, pouvait-on lire là, dans les documents de l'atelier. Le troisième atelier était organisé par Marc Moore. Conclusion de cet atelier-là, c'est la consolidation du MINOM avec une ouverture aux pays nordiques. Et c'est donc considéré comme un succès à cause de la représentation autochtone. Officiellement, le MINOM a été officiellement admis par le conseil exécutif de l'ICOM dans une séance extraordinaire le 30 et le 31 mai 87. Et c'est Mathieu Andrés qui l'organise.
Ça a été réellement révélateur encore là, parce que rencontre avec la population. Et je l'ai appelé nouvelle dimension, nouveaux adhérents. Il faut dire qu'à cette deuxième réunion-là, l'Afrique arrive. Hein? On a des délégués du Niger et du Mali, dont Alpha Oumar Konaré. Et là, c'était cette espèce d'inclusion et de territoire et de développement du territoire.
C'est la rencontre de la haie. Celle-là, je pense que c'est la 14e conférence de l'ICOM. Et le MINOM avait organisé un atelier, cette fois-là, sur le thème des cultures frontières. Mais il y a 3 jours d'atelier pratique, si on peut dire. Mais la partie officielle qui s'est tenue à La Haye, c'est quand même la rencontre qui a demandé qu'il y a des comités qui se créent au sein du MINOM. Et c'est là que sont nés MINOM Norvège, MINOM Europe, MINOM Amérique du Nord, MINOM Portugal. Et c'est un autre moment important dans l'histoire du MINOM parce que là, on regionalise d'une certaine façon.
A partir de 1990, quando se acompanha a situação, começam-se a ver momentos em que aqueles encontros, os ateliês, as conferências, como eles chamavam, os próprios Assembleias Gerais, começam a ter disparidades, começam a aparecer grupos que se querem distanciar. México foi um país que desenvolveu poderosamente toda esta filosofia em conjunto e mais tarde cada um com a sua própria independência.
Puis le MINOM Amérique du Nord, c'est Nancy Fuller de la Smithsonian Institution et Michel Noël du Québec, Pierre Méran et moi-même qui sont sur le comité. De Nancy qui était donc à la Smithsonian et qui s'occupe beaucoup des rapports avec les Autochtones. Et Michel Noël, qui, lui, est au ministère des Affaires culturelles à la direction des Affaires autochtones. Fait qu'au Québec, on va développer pas mal de choses autour on va faire des rencontres, on va avoir des délégations québécoises autochtones qui vont aller visiter les communautés autochtones des États-Unis. MINOM, Amérique du Nord, pour les années dans lesquelles j'ai été active, assez dynamique, je dirais.
Fui presidenta de MINOM, encargada para hacer un taller en México. Yo ya estaba fuera de la institución, yo ya no estaba en el Instituto de Antropología e Historia, ¿sí? Y organizamos la reunión de MINOM en Pátzcuaro, Michoacán. Esto es un lugar en donde el Día de Muertos se celebra de una manera fastuosa, donde realmente la cultura mexicana se plasma en esa festividad. La experiencia esta de Pátzcuaro fue muy especial porque se buscó así, lejos de una comunidad en la que se estuviera trabajando, pero sin embargo, en donde la plenitud de la cultura mexicana podía percibirse y entenderse por los extranjeros que no habían tenido contacto, ¿verdad?
Je sais qu'il y en a eu un après au Brésil, organisé par Eloisa d'Acosta sur le droit des enfants. Moi, je n'ai pas pu y participer, mais j'ai quand même organisé une activité à Bahia. C'était au Québec, on a un producteur de films pour enfants, qui est Roch de Mers, qui est très connu, qui a fait beaucoup de films. Alors moi, je ne pouvais pas m'y rendre à ce moment-là. Et j'avais contacté Roch de Mers pour lui parler de cette rencontre-là au Brésil. Alors, il a accepté de se rendre au Brésil et de faire une séance de cinéma pour les enfants de la rue. Et Eloisa d'Acosta m'a toujours dit que ça avait été le clou de l'atelier. Encore là, c'était un peu toujours dans l'esprit des ateliers de faire les choses différemment. Et ici, on se préoccupait des droits des enfants. Alors, il me semblait que c'était important de faire quelque chose pour les enfants.
A partir precisamente também desse momento que estamos a falar, 2003, 2004, 2005, e passou a ter como introdução outras pessoas que fizeram uma grande mudança. Mário Moutinho recuperou aqui, de muito novo, voltou outra vez a ser um grande defensor, até através da universidade, neste caso lusófona, que fez um trabalho extraordinário. De Mário Chagas, em Brasil, de uma série de pessoas que entraram a formar parte da liderança e, inclusive, já depois de 2007, gente já muito nova. Foi um salto importante conseguir que pessoas novas entrassem e introduzissem um novo impulso dentro do MINOM. Pierre Véran morreu em 2011, se não estou em erro, em 2011. E a sua liderança formal deixou de ser praticamente, desde 2004, ele deixou de estar à frente dos destinos do MINOM, mas nunca alargou o MINOM e sempre foi a nossa memória conflitiva, mas é uma memória conflitivo-afetiva que verdadeiramente, de alguma forma, fez sobreviver o MINOM. E durante uns tempos que eu acompanhei, lembro-me que praticamente em 2003 houve um momento quase de extinção, em que houve uma Assembleia Geral do MINOM Internacional em Portugal, em Santiago do Cacém, onde todas aquelas diferenças que tinham começado a existir e aquelas diferentes produções do ponto de vista museológico e textual diversas, não se esqueçam, as pessoas esquecem que naquele momento nós só trabalhávamos com papel de carta. E qualquer problema ou qualquer discussão, além de não ser uma associação com grandes poderes econômicos, embora é reconhecida pelo ICOM, não tinha recursos econômicos para financiar grandes sistemas de comunicação, portanto os telemóveis e os telefones eram coisas muito caras. Todo esse tempo muito difícil puseram o MINOM quase a tremer. Mas curiosamente, ressuscitou. E ressuscitou precisamente quando estava quase prestes a ficar em uma maneira de existência, em aqueles períodos do princípio do século XXI, em 2003, em parte porque o ICOM, que esse ano fez em Seul a sua conferência, decidiu introduzir o patrimônio imaterial e iniciar de novo uma preocupação muito engajada com uma museologia mais moderna, uma museologia que tivesse mais em conta as pessoas. No fundo, aquilo que o MINOM, a quem chamavam muitas vezes a museologia dos pobres, até então, não ligavam nenhuma, tinha defendido durante imenso tempo. E, de facto, em 2004, se não estou em erro, em 2004, iniciou-se um processo de recuperação muito interessante em Brasil, com uma conferência que foi, perdão, com um ateliê. Foi quando verdadeiramente se iniciou a recuperação do MINOM. Começaram a chegar muitas mais pessoas de muitos mais lugares, considerando também que foi, sobretudo, nos países latinos, em Portugal, onde mais força o movimento teve durante muito tempo. Praticamente, muitas das reuniões, muitos dos trabalhos e muitos dos encontros aconteceram sempre neste âmbito da lusofonia.
E vale a pena ler as conclusões, onde se afirma, efetivamente, que esta museologia é uma museologia onde cada um faz a sua museologia a seu jeito. Me parece que é extremamente importante esta ideia, e que é um processo político e é igualmente um processo poético. Eu acho que o político e o poético são a insurgência. E os museus comunitários, os museus dialógicos, é uma forma de exprimir a insurgência. E pensamos em todos esses museus que são dialógicos, que procuram outros caminhos, que procuram responder às necessidades das comunidades que os criam, tendo em consideração os contextos sociais onde estão inseridos. Então, Rio de Janeiro, o que está dito na declaração, é extremamente importante. Já agora, entre parênteses, nessa reunião do Rio de Janeiro, praticamente não havia académicos. Só havia pessoas que trabalhavam nos museus. E os académicos que lá estavam também eram pessoas envolvidas. Digamos, não havia perturbação ao pensamento. E, de uma maneira geral, as pessoas percebiam do que é que estavam a falar, porque era a sua própria vivência cotidiana que definiu. Daí, se tivesse chegado a algumas expressões na declaração final, que eu penso que são e continuarão a ser extremamente importantes para o reconhecimento das diferentes dimensões da museologia comunitária, dialógica, etc, etc, etc.
So, as I said, Anna is starting her PhD thesis about this history, and she left her contact. You can send for her documents, pictures, and information if you have. I'm very honored to invite René Rivard and Paul Renaud, founder members of MINOM, to tell about this history, and also Iñaki Balerdi can come. Then we have the table already, and Ana Mercedes Stoffel, please. She will be here to answer questions. I would like to underline the presence of Professor Manuel Antunes, who is a founder member of MINOM Portugal. Okay, so you can pass here the slides. They will do a joint presentation. Now you share the screen, then you he can follow. You can put the camera like this, then you can see.
Okay.
Vous préférez être ici, plus proche, peut-être, si vous préférez.
Merci. Dear MINOM friends and colleagues, primo, voglio ringraziare i nostri amici italiani per la bella ospitalità e la stimolante organizzazione qui in Catania. Allora, I have to say, starting, that what you have seen, we might repeat some of the things, but you will hear them on a different, our own perceptions of having been through I would say, the 10 first years of MINOM. So it's with an immense pleasure that Paul Renaud, my colleague, and I are here today to celebrate 40 years later what first happened in Quebec, where our movement really took root. Like any endeavor of this type, there is a before and an after. Now, in those 2 decades of the before, it was a kind of a new period, a new institution, new concept. Our friend William Sade talked about his experience in France, and everything was in development and evolution. And, things happen when it's the right time, and we have the right people, the right time. Well, it was in Quebec, it was May '68 in France, the Quiet Revolution in Quebec, the Woodstock Rock Music Festival in the USA. We had, it was talked about the Carnation Revolution in April, and the strong movement for the rights of the black people, black power in the USA. And then there was the end of the Dictadura Franquista in Spain with Franco's death in '75. In other words, the Western world was hoping, fighting for, and working on some drastic changes towards more democratic societies and institutions. Now, the right people in the right place. First, we have Georges-Henri Rivière, who had, as you know, kind of created ICOM in 1946. But in the 60s, he started to propose a new type of museum to educate, the museum to educate people rather with subjects than with objects. And to make them think that their living area and their living history was part of their culture. And he wanted history and territory and time and space being brought into a new type of museum, which the word écomusée was coined by Hugues de Varenne in 71, but already in the 1969, 1970, you had a few of those. And so Georges-Henri Rivière, I'm showing you the Avatok Eco Museum in northern Quebec that was created in 1984, the year we had the first atelier. And there was another guy, John Kennard. He was called a different drummer. He's the one who founded the Anacostia Neighborhood Museum in Washington, D.C. Now this, well, he came to Quebec in '84, and he is one of our founding members. And I will cite Kenneth Hudson, who said that Kennard later developed the small Anacostia Museum into one of the great museums of influence in the world. He came to Quebec, as I said, and here are pictures of John and of his theater in which the museum was placed, and an exhibition on the rat, man's invited affliction. In Mexico, at the same time, an important evolution was happening. In the same week, were opened 7 national museums in Mexico City, making it almost a museum wonderland. And all of this under the direction of Mario Vasquez. And Mario decided to explore new venues of museums with a project that was called La Casa del Museo in the poor suburbs of Mexico City, and Miriam Arroyo, whom we've heard earlier, was one of the actresses that, and this movement of the Casa del Museo has given today hundreds and hundreds of museos comunitarios in all of the Mexican states. So Mario working with the thing, and I want to talk about another place where things really happened. It was in Niger, in Africa, where a new type of national museum emerged. Its first director was Pablo Toussaint, and Hugues de Varenne used to called him the Catalan in Niger. And Madame Boubou Hama, who was wife of the president of Niger at the time and a former student of Georges-Henri Rivière, gave this kind of new type of museum. Hugues de Varenne once told me this museum is one of the most original museums in the world. Westerners don't know what to think. And probably it was the first decolonized national museum. Okay, Pablo Toussaint, and this is the entrance of the National Museum. I worked there in '81 and '83, so really is a great place. Now, let's go to Mexico, where I think the real origins of the MINOM started at the 12th ICOM General Conference in Mexico City in October 1980. I was really impressed with the great national museums and the way Mexicans use murals to communicate rather than text. It gave us all kinds of new ideas on graphic space. And when we came back, a Quebec government publication showed us going to Mexico and coming back with different dress styles. And I was one of those who adopted the sombrero. Now, time went by, and we found ourselves in 1983 with two events related to the creation of MINOM, the study day, which you've heard Paul talk about, and the ICOM conference in London. Since Paul was one of the organizer, I'll let her speak to you.
Thank you, René. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here and bring some recalls of the beginning of the new museology movement, MINOM. One important moment was the study day held in Montreal 40 years ago. Pierre Méran, director of the research group on heritage at UQAM, the Université du Québec à Montréal, and I worked on the organization of the event. The study day was followed by visits to Haute-Beauce, Sorel, and Montreal eco-museums that were spent over 3 days. Supporting the study day, the Quebec government invited... No. Ça marche pas. Supporting the study day, non plus. Supporting the study day, the Quebec government invited two personalities pioneering ecomuseology in France, namely Marcel Evrard, who was the director of the Creusot Ecomuseum, and Hugues de Varine, who had published 5 years ago an essay on the Ecomuseum titled L'Écomusée communautaire. The goals of the study day, three goals for the study day. Firstly, to think about and share ideas on the principles and practice of new museology and ecomuseology in Quebec. Secondly, to list and choose the basic ideas for the Declaration of Quebec, which will become an international position paper on the development of new museology and eco-museums. Thirdly, to set up strategies to organize the first international workshop to be held the following year in 1984 in the province of Quebec. It was decided that the workshop would honor Georges-Henri Rivière, who is named the father of ecomuseums. The result of the study days were to establish the credibility and value of ecomuseums and new museology with several Canadian and provincial departments, agencies, and associations, to strengthen the links between the existing ecomuseum in Quebec, that were at the time 7, and to assemble the appropriate documentation relative to the understanding of the goals pursued by the new movement that was in its process. London. The second event in London
at the end of July 1983 has been a series of meetings organized by ICOFOM committee as part of the third ICOM General Conference. During this session, lively and passionate discussion opposed the new museology proponents to curators and museology researchers supporting a more conventional museology. The discussion showed that the supporters of the new museology movement were not accepted and did not fit within the ICOFOM committee. Then, the following was decided. 1, to organize an international workshop in Quebec in 1984 to explore and foster the creation of a new museum group that would better represent the proponents of a new social museology. 2, to refine and finalize the text of the Quebec Declaration and to have a general consensus for its signature. The winter and summer 1984 were dedicated to the organization of the event. Contacts were made as many countries as possible, and invitations were sent to those interested. A program was devised and gradually improved. A logo, a poster, and brochures were designed and edited. L'Association des écomusées du Québec, Muséologie nouvelle et expérimentation sociale, NES from France, and l'Écomusée expérimental de Wallonie, Bruxelles de Belgique, provide their support and contacts. It helped the workshop organizers to meet deadline and prepare an event that marked the history of museum. And here we are today to celebrate together the 48th anniversary of this memorable and founding workshop. Now, let us get on the bone of the creation of MINOM in October 1984. Some 40 museum and heritage specialists coming from 10 countries, Canada, Belgium, France, Germany, Mexico, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, and the USA, convened in Montreal to the first international workshop on ecomuseum and new museology. It was organized by a team of volunteers, led by Pierre Merat and I. I was at this time a student in museology, and internet did not exist yet. It was a traveling symposium with first start in Montreal, then they took the road to remote outposts where participants were hosted by numerous families living in one of the 12 villages of the Ecomuseum territory. Visits and sessions were held during the 2 following days. There has been also a session to express a vibrant homage to Georges-Henri Rivière. The last part in the workshop was held in Quebec City as a strong conclusion. The Declaration of Quebec was signed by the participants, who thus made a strong statement in favor of the development of new museology in the world, in continuing with the 1972 declaration to the Santiago Roundtable, Santiago de Chile. The 7-day program processed from finding commonly accepted definitions of new museology to the pressing need to unite and to be recognized at the national and international levels. The workshop was for all participants an intense stage of discoveries. In conclusion, they all realized, First, that the forceful evolution, if not a revolution, was taking place in museums in many countries of the world, notably in North and South America, in Western Europe, in Scandinavian countries. That they should unite to have a stronger voice in the museum world, and that they should work together to ensure the development and success of various and powerful ventures in new museology, thus making informal alliances and asserting the need to create an international association which would regroup under the same banner at the proponent of the new museology. The banner of this picture accompanied the participant everywhere during the first workshop, traveling from Montreal to Haute-Beauce and from there to Quebec City. 40 years later, it still flows graphically here in Catania. On the screen, on the screen, we can see the picture of the founding members of MINOM who signed the Declaration of Quebec. The founding members with a year date after their name are passed away. We have lost track of those with a question mark. The order of appearance is as follows: Quebecers and Canadians from Ontario and Nova Scotia, John Kennard from the Anacostia Museum in Washington, D.C., 2 delegates from Mexico, Miriam Arroyo and Felipe Lacouture. Then there are Andrea Anschil from Germany, Etienne Bernard from Belgium, and 4 delegates from Norway and Sweden. René will continue the presentation.
The French delegation was quite impressive. The 12 participants, more than 12, 13 participants came to the workshop, but we had a mixture of people who were involved at the international level, like André Desvallées and Evelyne Lehal. Others were museum directors, like Veillard, Nicolas, and Sade, or eco-museum developers, like Joubert, Hubert, and Mathilde Scalbert. There was 1 representation from Spain and 5 from Portugal, including Mario Moutinho and Antonio Nabaix. These 36 co-signers of the Quebec Declaration are not the only founding members of MINOM. All of those who attended the first General Assembly held in Lisbon the following year should be unquestionably considered as founding members of our movement. Let me now speak about a rarely mentioned 1984 event that took place right after the first workshop in Quebec, namely the Seminario Territorio Patrimonio Comunidad Ecomuseos El Hombre y su Entorno, held in Huastepec, a town about 100 kilometers south of Mexico City. There, we were welcomed by organizers Felipe Lacouture and Miriam Arroyo, who both attended the Quebec workshop and had flown back earlier to Mexico. The following days, interesting sessions were held by 2 round tables, one devoted to heritage and community, and the other one to territory and community. A UNESCO official, Dr. Luis Lumbreras from Peru, Paulette Olsina from the ICOM office in Paris, and Fernanda de Camargo Moro from Brazil attended the seminario and participated in the refinement of its declaratoria. We also visited a few heritage experiments in nearby villages, as can be seen in the picture, and I point out Pierre Méran and Monsieur Camusat. On the 18th, the Declaratoria de Huastepec was endorsed by all participants at the seminario, and as you can see, its last paragraph sums up its intention. I will now rapidly go over the important gathering organized by MINOM in the years after the first workshop in Quebec. In 1985, we met in Portugal, in Lisbon, and it was earmarked to establish the legal foundations of MINOM and the approval of its statutes. 2 words to sum up this work done was endorsement and networking. Curiously, the logo went blue. As I said, MINOM was officially instituted at the end of the first assembly, and the first board of directors was elected. And as you can see, later on in January '86, you had chargé de mission and work group coordinators that were also part of the MINOM board. After the Lisbon meeting, participants visited Seychelles Eco Museum facing Lisbon across the Tage River. Then we all went by bus to Montredondo to see and review the project of its future ethnology museum, where our friend Pierre Méran played the harmonica. Let me now tell you about the third MINOM workshop held in Norway in mid-September '86, exploring the theme Northern Tradition and Perspective for Open-Air Museums to Eco-Museum, working with Arctic minorities. It started in Oslo, but soon we were en route to Toten and its regional museum complex, then directed by the late and jovial John Augie Yerstrom. This complex is now named Sio Museet because of its proximity to Lake Mjøso. The workshop mostly took place at the Peterbalke Center, where where the 36 participants were hosted with room and board. And I find these words to express what happened, and it was experimenting and how to exhibit social justice subject. Now, how was this done in Toten? Participants were divided into 5 groups and given the task to produce an exhibition that would present a provocative subject with a daring new museology approach. 2 days later, a jury of locals headed by the Norwegian Minister of Defense came to see the 5 exhibits. I still remember the plan by the group led by Pierre. To see it, you first had to climb through a window of the building. Then you faced, this is the Balke Center, the lake. Then you faced barbed wire fence, which complicated your access into the exhibition room. The exhibit itself explored what I call museology of social issues, as it presented topics concerned with migration and the risk migrants and refugees take or must face to get across border, be they state border or mental or social borders. This was in 1986. Was it a forewarning of what it is happening today with those millions of refugees who are seeking a better life, a more peaceful environment, with millions of people excluded from mainstream society because of a handicap or insolvency or bureaucracy, because they oppose authoritarian regimes, because of societal collapse. In fact, I recommend to read this new book by Robert James called Museums and Societal Collapse, the Museum as a Lifeboat. I will be doing the French translation, and it should come out in French in the fall. I remember the strong discussions that followed, including facing up with the Minister of Defense of Norway. To me, it was quite an example of Scandinavian freedom of speech, of Nordic traditions and perspective, which was the theme of the workshop. Like in Portugal, the third day consisted of visits to the facilities of the museum, namely a former evaporated milk factory to be converted into museum and local archives, a former school house fully restored to its original status, with its two doors which show the outmoded separation of boys and girls. It is now used for the interpretation of Norwegian education in pre-World War II. We also visited the Eiktunet Frilufts Museum in nearby York, an open-air museum presenting the society. Now, this group picture was taken in the building, and as you can see, I've pointed out, you have Hugues de Varenne and Nancy Fuller, the supervisor of the Native American Museum program at the Smithsonian. To be noted, the strong Quebec delegation composed of 5 Quebecers and 4 delegates from our Arctic and subarctic minorities, 1 Inuk from Nunavik in far northern Quebec, 1 Innu, and 2 Abenaki First Nation members. In the day before the workshop, they were able to share and meet with members of the Sami communities around, living in northern Norway, thus establishing a cooperation that would persist for some years. Very interesting, in fact. Let us now review the 4th MINOM workshop held in Aragon, España, from October 18 to 28, 1987, under the theme Heritage, Territory, Agenda 21, New Museology. After a visit in Saragossa, and we arrived in Molinos, in the region of Maestrazgo, where the village population welcomed us open-heartedly. To sum up this workshop, these words: new dimension and rather membership come to my mind. On the Millennials building, the MINOM logo appeared here in red, standing out on the yellow of the Spanish flag. As you can see, Molinos is a small village nestled in the rural valley, which had, under the leadership of Mateo's Andres' father, and then of Mateo, engaged into exciting sustainable projects, one of them being a local museum with new approach. We were all surprised to find how advanced the region was in working on Agenda 21 project, and that is some 12 years before the year 2000 and the beginning of the 21st century. Visits to included the Crystal Caves near Linos and restoration of churches, especially of the 17th century organs, which were then offered for free practice by Aragon's music students. Sessions were most fruitful, with inputs from Mexican Felipe Lacouture on the left, Marie-Odile de Barry from France, Alpha Omar Conare from Mali, and Orencio Andrés, Mateo's father. Here, Pierre Gaudibert in the center, curator, writer, and art critic from France, Marc Moore, the museum designer from Norway, and Michel Noël, standing for Quebec First Nation, who added pigment to the discussion on sustainability and participation to Agenda 20. Worthy of mention was the heartfelt reception MINOM members received from the local population. A sumptuous banquet was held in front of the church, followed by traditional dances and song. It was quite a show. One can see the smile on everyone's face in this group picture, the immense satisfaction we all had of being together in my Strasbourg. During the years from 1986 to 89, worthy of mention, the creation of national chapters like MINOM Portugal, MINOM North America, etc., and a conference held in Issy-les-Moulineaux by the French MNES, and wanted to initiate MINOM Europe Committee, and the 1988 meeting on the island of Chalki in Greece under the theme Museum and Development. Okay. 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 Bon. Fifth International Conference, The Hague, Fréming-Mavalebach, and Maison des Cultures Frontières. We meeting the other and exploring borders were kind of the words to be used. Jean Hurstel, a theater man, for working on cultural development, was really a leader in the conversation, and in other words, of bringing culture and working for culture to embrace culture in the plural. I will go quickly. This participants, and we visited other sites, and you have the North American delegation there. 1990 to 92, big year for MINOM North America, because it started with the 16th General Conference of ICOM, and we had the 8th MINOM workshop attended by a substantial number of participants. I'm going through as fast.
I would like to say that the complete text will be published. It's already in the QR code in several languages, but we are planning to publish the proceedings of the conference.
Okay, so you have Norwegian and French and Swedish members on this picture. ICOM workshop. It started with a theater play where we tried to answer Stephen Wild's question: what are the real foundations of museums, objects or ideas? On the second day, in Old Beauce, we came back and visited the same population where we had been 8 years before. And there, participants were able to discuss about the improvement of these population, what they felt and their self-esteem, how much it had become great. And the third day, we went at Mashteuyac and visited the community there of the First Nation of Innu. And we assessed there what they call their pôle de vie. It was really, so to complete, we went in '92 to Brazil for the Rio Earth Summit in January '97. There was a Pasqualo for North American chapter, open museum in search of pursuit of fresh solutions. In '99 in Salvador de Bahia, Brazil, Paul told you about the movie maker who had shown his film La Guerre des Tucs, or The Dog Who Stopped the War in English, and it was le clou du workshop, the highlight of the workshop. Since Paul and I believe we have now told you and shown you what we know of the history of museum, let us say to all of you, merci, thank you. Merci mille, obrigado, mil gracias, shukran besaf, tajurut kumitin, tankashon, nakakatak, takatak, tapaki, etc. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup, René. Sorry for make you run. I know you had a text is still longer, but Igor Devahine is online and he has time to leave. I hope he can still share with us his presentation that is short. Igor, est-ce que tu peux encore présenter? Igor Devahine tem a apresentação em inglês e em português e vai falar em francês. Por favor, Igor, tu as le temps de présenter? Ok. On attend. Tu peux commencer. Nós lhe escutamos, Vahine.
Aucun son.
Vamos partilhar.
Aucun son.
Estamos escutando você.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que tout ça, mais...
Vahine, nós lhe escutamos.
Non. Pas de son.
Nous sommes en train de t'écouter. Vahine? Vou telefonar.
Allô, Manuelina, j'arrête là, il faut que j'aille dîner avec... j'ai une de mes filles qui est là, je peux pas rester. Mais je n'entends rien. Je n'entends pas. Je n'ai rien. Je n'ai pas entendu une chose depuis 2 heures. Je vois un garçon qui est là. Je vois quelqu'un qui est peut-être d'une, je ne sais pas parce que je ne la connais pas, mais non, le mieux, c'est écoute, tu fais des amitiés à toute la réunion et puis voilà, c'est tout. C'est pas grave. On ne peut pas faire ça par téléphone, c'est pas possible.
Você escuta? Não? Alô? Non.
Non, mais je vais sortir. Je vais sortir du. De toute façon, je n'entends rien. Donc, je ne peux pas parler.
Je suis vraiment désolée. On t'entend très bien.
Ah, parce que tu m'as. Bon, ben, écoute, tu dis à tout le monde, je dis à tout le monde que je vous aime beaucoup et que je trouve très bien que vous. Et puis c'est tout ce que je veux dire. Mais non, parce que je peux pas faire ça. Enfin, en plus, c'est très difficile de parler sans. J'ai aucune réaction. Écoute, c'est pas grave, ça n'a pas d'importance. Attends, là je comprends. Non, écoute, je comprends pas. Non. Non, écoute, c'est trop tard, là, il faut, on m'attend ici, je peux pas rester indéfiniment. Ça n'a pas d'importance, amusez, passez une bonne soirée. D'accord. Bah, si tu peux distribuer mon texte français et le texte dans les deux langues. Puis voilà. Voilà. Allez, bonne soirée. Bonne soirée à tous. Au revoir.
We had a problem of sound. He was not hearing during 2 hours, so now he is a little bit tired, and we should understand. Ele não escutava nada durante essas 2 horas, infelizmente. Na parte do vídeo a gente esqueceu, inclusive, de partilhar a tela também. Então ele também não via. Então, infelizmente, ele deixa os cumprimentos e fala que gosta de todos e está aqui em coração, mas não vai ter tempo de falar. Então, nós vamos encerrar com um pequeno testemunho do Inhaque e partir para a discussão, se vocês tiverem questões a colocar. So, we have now a short testimonial from Iñaki Balerdi from Spain, and then we have a few time for questions, okay, Iñaki?
Gracias, Manuelina, gracias a todos por estar aquí. Yo tengo poco que decir, porque yo no estuve en Quebec, no estuve en Oastepec, no estuve en casi ningún sitio. Yo llegué muy tarde. Me han invitado, me imagino que por mi edad, porque parece que, como soy viejo, igual estuve por ahí. Pues no, ya lo siento, no estuve. Pero de todas maneras, a pesar de que Hugh de Barry no ha podido hablar o no lo hemos podido escuchar, yo aprovecho la ocasión para agradecer a toda la gente que sí estuvo, René Ribard y todos algunos que había conocido, usted no lo conocía, estoy encantado de conocerle, a los que yo considero pioneros utópicos. Y como por el texto que les han pasado, bueno, que se puede descargar por el código QR, como me dijo una vez Pierre Mairand, hay que pensar de manera utópica, porque sin utopía todo es mucho más aburrido. Y creo que la nueva museología, la museología social, la altermuseología, como quieran ustedes llamarlo, tiene algo de renovación, algo de cuestionamiento, algo de autocuestionamiento, y no podemos caer en la tentación de eso, de institucionalizarnos y bueno, las dinámicas son las dinámicas. Creo que hay que seguir en la brecha. Las batallas casi todas están perdidas, pero quién sabe, igual algún día lograremos ganar y lograremos imponer una museología que no sea la derivada de la Ilustración, no de la Ilustración francesa, sino del despotismo ilustrado que generó la Revolución Francesa, por la cual todo se hacía por el pueblo, pero sin el pueblo. Creo que la museología social tiene que ser museología del pueblo, para el pueblo, con el pueblo. No para el pueblo, sino con el pueblo. Muchas gracias y gracias a todos los que trabajan en este sentido, los que han trabajado y los que estoy seguro trabajarán de aquí en adelante. Muchas gracias.
So, if you have questions for the participants of the roundtable, please. I have a provocation, in fact, because now we are seeing the it's appearing a new committee of social museology in MINOM, in ICOM, in the International Council of Museums, and the origin of MINOM has a lot to do with the first try to create something more or less like this. It was not called social museology in the time. It was the idea to create a committee of eco-museums and communitary museums in '83 in London that was not allowed. So you see different roles for MINOM to continue next 40 years maybe, and SOMUS, the Social Museology Committee, how you see the different roles. Eu vou traduzir em português. Eu fiz a pergunta sobre como eles veem o futuro do MINOM, agora que o ICOM criou o Comitê Internacional de Museologia Social, se eles percebem que há diferentes papéis para o Comitê de Museologia Social no ICOM e para o movimento internacional por uma nova museologia. E acho que é uma provocação para todos os participantes interessados no MINOM, não só para quem está aqui na mesa. Então, eu pergunto se algum deles quer comentar, mas se qualquer pessoa quiser comentar, fiquem à vontade. So, my question, in fact, is for all that are here interested in MINOM.
¿Se oye bien? Voy a hablar español, ya que hablé portugués hace un rato en el encuentro. Muy rápidamente, y para que se acabe un poco y se continúe al mismo tiempo con las variedades de la museología social y el MINOM y los movimientos que ahora aparecen a través del ICOM, estamos todos acostumbrados a que cuando una cosa lucha mucho por conseguirse, casi nadie la quiere. El día que empieza a tener éxito, todos son dueños. Por tanto, lo mejor es que todos seamos dueños de la mejor idea para un museo, la mejor manera de que un museo se relacione con las personas, construya con las personas, que haya personas que construyan museos y no otras que los destruyen. Y probablemente, si dejamos de discutir tanto nombre y pasamos a la acción, funcionará todo mucho mejor. Yo soy una admiradora de MINOM, entré muy tarde, en 1995, para conocerla, precisamente por el MINOM Portugal, y desde entonces, mi perspectiva de la vida y de los museos, yo era una profesional de la museología, una historiadora del arte, de repente es como si los ojos se me abrieran para encontrar algo que estaba nuevo, algo que se llamaba la función social del museo, algo que nadie había oído decir. Y durante años me enamoré del MINOM y de los pensamientos que MINOM y todas las personas que trabajaban en la museología social desarrollaban entonces. Y es verdad que se llamaba la museología de los pobres, porque la verdadera museología era la del Prado, la del Louvre y la de los grandes museos. Menos mal que Hugues de Barine dijo un día que democratizar la cultura no es lo mismo que haber democracia en la cultura, y que ambas pueden vivir juntas, y que no tenemos que tirar los grandes cuadros de los museos, son maravillosos, pero hay una verdadera museología en las personas, en los grupos sociales, en las distintas razas que existen por la Tierra, que tiene que existir con los mismos derechos que todos los demás. Y MINOM ha hecho mucho por ello. Y todos los otros nombres, la sociomuseología, la museología indígena, todas esas museologías están construyendo una nueva forma de ver la cultura, que sea para todos los ciudadanos y no solo para algunos. Yo lo pienso así.
Quer fazer um pequeno resumo em inglês do que você falou, Ana? Se você puder fazer um pequeno resuminho. Não? Ok. Não me sinto capaz agora de resumir. Não sei se Ana.
What I understood, and also I use what we discussed during the interviews, and what I think there were like a common speech of saying that the MINOM should work together with the new sociomuseology committee. And I'm not gonna resume what you said, but more like about what everybody said. And I remember also what Hugues de Varine said about the fact that it was a movement, and it was mainly, and remember at the beginning of MINOM, what we didn't say really is that a lot of people were actually activists. There were no museum people, a few of them. But there were a lot of them were like teachers or historians or activists, or people who just wanted to have change in museums. And he was saying that the MINOM should continue in that way, to be like more like the action part, the doing part, and then having a theoretical side. And what I understood is that the sociomuseology could be that theoretical side that would communicate what has been done around the MINOM, the sphere of the MINOM, and then share with other people. Because that's also a thing, and I think my thinking about MINOM and why it's not well known among the academical circle, like the Institut du Patrimoine and other big universities and institutions in Europe, is that nobody, especially were writing about it, not a lot of people. I think I'm hoping that the sociomuseology committee and the MINOM work together, and I think there were a common wish of all the people who are interviewed. There was that common wish. I think I really felt it.
Thank you, Anna. I will say to the ones that are arriving at MINOM conference and social museology for the first time that we still have other difference. There's new museology or nouvelle museologie, social museology and social museology. That is a little bit different. We don't have time to explain here. Eu estou falando que tem diferença entre nova museologia e museologia social e sociomuseologia. É um pouco mais complexo. René quer comentar alguma coisa?
I have one thing to say. It is, when I think back 40 years ago, the happiness we had to be together, the joy, the enthusiasm was, flowing through the populations we were visiting and were flowing in various projects.
creativity just flowed out of all these experiments we were doing with local people. And to me, this was a great part of my life. And that's it.
Thank you. Yeah. We have a question from Siraj. I don't know if maybe Oscar wants to make some provocation because he also has a reflection about these concepts. And we have a short video, 3 minutes, of people, the participants and ancient presidents of MINOM wishing something for the future of MINOM we would like to share with you. Siraj. Who will speak, ou quem quiser falar, por favor, se aproximar do microfone para sair na gravação.
I suppose I'm interested in, as I listen to the histories presented and of the formation of policy and statements and of manifestos and of the idea of what was happening in MINOM and in social museology was a social movement, the building of a social movement. What does it do for MINOM and for social museology to be, in a sense, incorporated into ICOM? And what does it do to ICOM to have a closer relationship with MINOM? And I ask that from having had the experience of being part of the process in Rio de Janeiro in 2012 of the formation of the first ideas towards the UNESCO recommendations that then culminated in a very watered down sort of French truncated version that was eventually agreed upon in Shenzhen 5 years later. In 2012, ICOM actively opposed any social museology that was coming through, particularly from Mario Chagas, from other colleagues in Nascimento Jr., other colleagues in Ibram, and from those of us from the African continent that were doing community museology. But by the time we got to Shenzhen, something had happened. So I'm interested in what strategic questions for building a social museology, what it does to be incorporated into ICOM, and what does it give ICOM?
Muito brevemente, vou fazer um resumo do que o Siraj falou sobre como houve muita oposição para a recomendação da UNESCO sobre museus e coleções, que foi depois aprovada em 2015, mas em 2012, quando o processo começou, tinha muita oposição no ICOM à sociomuseologia, museologia social, e ele se interessa muito, ele acha que é um tópico muito importante para a reflexão, pensar por qual mudança aconteceu para o ICOM aceitar agora esse comitê. More questions, other comments, outras questões, ou se quiserem fazer em português ou italiano, tentamos ajudar a traduzir. If you want to do the questions in Italian or Portuguese, we can translate. No? Ana.
First of all, thanks for everything. I think it was very important for us to rethink about the history, and because if we want to think about how to move forward, thinking of where we come from. I think it's very important and essential. And just to comment that I think that this question that also Siraj is asking, it has to be at the core of the assembly that we're gonna have tomorrow, and also with Natalia, that is gonna coordinate with Manuel Antunesi, others tomorrow during the assembly. I think we have to discuss this relationship between what's the future of MINOM, considering that now there is a committee inside ICOM. And so I think if you have now some thoughts that we can put at the core of our conversation tomorrow, I think it's very important we share some ideas now.
A Dilze falou da importância de retomarmos essa discussão também na Assembleia final amanhã. E acho que uma coisa muito importante quando a gente pensou na conferência toda e nessa mesa era reconectar esse passado e o presente e o futuro do MINOM, e também diferentes línguas. Quando eu comecei a contactar os fundadores do MINOM, principalmente francófonos, muitos achavam que o MINOM não existia mais. Também muitas pessoas lusófonas pensam que o MINOM surgiu recentemente, ou que é mais localizado no mundo lusófono. Então, achamos que era muito importante criar essas pontes com todos os desafios que são fazer essa conferência com tantas línguas. Mas esperamos que realmente encontremos esse sentido da continuidade do MINOM. My idea for MINOM and SOMOS, I think, SOMOS anyway is a committee of ICOM. We work in the ICOM languages and for ICOM members, and not everybody here is interested or go really to ICOM. Or maybe we have different spaces for different how can I say, fights. So I think it's important to keep the different associations or organizations for different roles. Eu estou falando como eu acho importante que o MINOM e o SOMOS têm papéis importantes, né? Para ser membro do MINOM não precisa ser membro do ICOM, embora ele seja próximo do ICOM agora, como não era no começo, mas é importante que os dois, por exemplo, essa liberdade do MINOM trabalhar com tantas línguas, e não somente com as línguas oficiais do ICOM, não somente com membros do ICOM que né, se afiliam ao ICOM, eu acho que isso também é importante manter. Any other comments? Maëlle? And of course, and now is a good example, I think it's important we are connecting different generations of MINOM, students of Liège and the founders from Quebec.
What a pressure. My question is, I will try in English. In 40 years of experience in MINOM, from my best perspective, museum has a tendency to dissociate engagement and their actions and their roles. So with your experience, how can MINOM can re-impulse and inspire the museum to reconnect and have reconnect with the population and engagement toward them?
Is that a reflection to keep for continuity for tomorrow? Então, ela quer saber como que os museus podem fazer essa reconexão, especialmente quando a questão do engajamento é muitas vezes rejeitado pelas instituições museais. Não sei se alguém gostaria de fazer algum comentário a respeito. Garlandini.
Just a few words, trying to answer the friend about the relationship between MINOM and ICOM. Of course, I'm talking from the point of view of ICOM. And first of all, one thing, diversity is really the richness of the museum world, of the museum community. We have more than 100,000 museums in the world, and there are no two museums that are equal. Each museum, each community is proposing their own experience, their own interpretation of what is a museum, what is the role of the museum, what can be done by museum for society. Because, of course, if museums are not useful to society, no way to discuss about the future of museums. So first of all, diversity. Accept diversity, accept that there are different points of view, there are different ideas, but we are still part of the same important community. And the second point is, luckily, ICOM is changing. Museums keep on changing. Has changed. We have a history of 200, at least 200 years. And museum has continuously changed, evolved, because society changed and evolved. And museology keep on changing. And luckily, even ICOM keep on changing. So it's, from my point of view, it's very important that there were different ideas, but really, I try to express it in my contribution this morning. But you may talk about nouvelle muséologie, social museology. You have different names and different experience. But what is important is that all these debates transform themselves in experience and in change. Change of ourselves, first of all, change of our association, because an association is not an end in itself. It's always a tool for changing, for create new experience, for create new communities, and for improve our professional and, let's say, museological community.
Thank you. Ele comentou um pouco sobre a importância da diversidade, mas eu não vou traduzir tudo, depois a gente pode traduzir nos corredores. Vamos passar o vídeo rapidinho e terminar. So we see this short video, and if you have other comments, I think we keep connected to discuss up to tomorrow. And later, of course.
En este aniversario del MINOM, el 40 aniversario, yo quiero enviarles a todos los participantes a este evento un saludo muy cordial. Les deseo un trabajo analítico y reflexivo, productivo y propositivo. Yo tengo mucha fe en la nueva museología y creo que seguirá viva. Va a seguir viva en la medida en la que se sigan haciendo experiencias sociales participativas que enriquezcan a las comunidades. Que tengan un lindo y muy buen trabajo. Pero quiero también aprovechar la oportunidad para rendir un homenaje especial a nuestro gran amigo, entrañable amigo Pierre Mayrand, quien fue el ideólogo y fue el primero que quiso tener esa iniciativa de reunirnos a todos los que estábamos haciendo estas experiencias en diferentes partes del mundo. Y seguimos aquí, seguimos trabajando desde diferentes lugares, de diferentes latitudes y realidades sociales y políticas, pero seguimos en lo mismo. Y espero tener la oportunidad de dar un abrazo fraternal a todos los fundadores para recordar a nuestro gran amigo en esta ocasión, y también deseo tener una nueva oportunidad en la que pueda yo estar presente con ustedes y darles un abrazo personalmente. Espero que para ustedes también sea muy rico el trabajo y poder acompañar a todas estas nuevas generaciones que están interesadas en este trabajo de tantos años, pero que ha sido muy fructífero y que considero que puede seguirlo siendo siempre y cuando tengan fe, trabajo y sobre todo mucho interés en el desarrollo social. Les deseo un muy buen evento, un trabajo fructífero para todos, tanto como los fundadores, como todos los que se han preocupado por tomar parte en este evento. Muchas gracias. Feliz aniversario para ustedes también. Feliz aniversario también para ustedes y para todos los que son y pretenden seguir manteniendo MINOM viva.
Je peux dire, c'est bonne fête MINOM. J'ai hâte d'être à Catane pour retrouver les anciens collègues et amis et surtout rencontrer les nouveaux. À bientôt!
Então, feliz aniversário de 40 anos, Minon.
Et les plus jeunes pourront dire j'espère être là au 50e. En 10 ans, peut-être que je serai là encore.
Joyeux anniversaire au MINOM, joyeux anniversaire à tous les membres du MINOM et je vous souhaite bon vent, comme on dit en français.
Et j'espère bien être au 50e.
Un bom aniversário, MINOM, pelos 40 anos, outros 40 pelo menos.
Joyeux anniversaire, oui, mais c'est pour 20 ans de plus.
Oui.
On peut souhaiter au MINOM au moins 20 ans de plus. Pas beaucoup plus parce qu'il y a des étapes qu'il faut franchir.
Ouais.
Il ne faut pas voir trop loin tout de suite.
Trop tôt. Pas 40 ans de plus, comme j'ai dit dans mon email.
Voilà, pas 40 ans de plus. 20 ans de plus, ce sera déjà pas mal parce que...
Isso mesmo, bom aniversário para o MINOM, bom aniversário para a museologia social, bom aniversário para a museologia dialógica, para a museologia comunitária, bom aniversário para todos nós que trabalhamos numa museologia insurgente e centrada sobre os direitos humanos.
Gilze, quer dar algum aviso? Any message?
For those of you who are coming for dinner, we have indication on the social pages, or also we have some signs out there. The dinner is going to be at 8, and the place is called Piazza Scamacca, but I think we are going to move together from here, so if you don't have to stop by your hotel, we can go all together now.
Então, ela deu aviso sobre o jantar, que vai ser a partir das 8 horas. A gente vai caminhar juntos a partir daqui. Tem o endereço nas redes sociais do evento e nos materiais de vocês, mas se quiserem, a gente sai juntos daqui a pouco.